Well, Indonesia will be hosting the G20 summit later this month. We know that this is the big ticket summit, which India will also be hosting next year. But talking about Indonesia and its preparation, with me is the Indonesian ambassador to New Delhi to talk about the summit. Ma'am, welcome to WION, and it's always pleasure to have you, ma'am. My first question to you is, your country is hosting the summit. What are the preparations which have been underway to host this mega big ticket summit?
Logistically, of course, to ensure that all guests is welcome properly and they feel at home during their stay in Bali. Logistically, and security-wise, I think Bali is one of the most secure place because it's an island that full of destination that is very close to the hearts of Indian people culturally and historically. And also my leaders, the president, the ministers of finance, minister of foreign affairs, minister of coordinating minister for economy, for maritime. All of these leaders are trying their best in coordinating the efforts to make the G20 a success.
Ma'am, what will be the focus for Indonesia under its presidency when it comes to the summit? We know that one of the focus is to emerge stronger after the COVID pandemic. So, what will be the key focus area under the Indonesian presidency for the grouping?
I think throughout the year, since December 2021, when we received the handover from Italy, we have these three priorities of the health governance, the digital economy, as well as the energy. We push forward for any efforts, any policies that will be implemented to and for G20 members, and we keep that promise. Although it is not an easy period for G20 because of the global dynamics, but we push forward for that. That with two principles in mind, which is the first, we want a stronger multilateral forum. We want to have a very inclusive way of decision in our efforts. That is why also we include Pacific Island countries in our deliberation. So the priorities are done throughout the years, and we will not change that priorities for the summit.
Ma'am, how significant the fact that Indonesia is hosting this summit is for your country? I'm asking this question because so far the countries who have hosted the G20 summit have been developed countries, and with the Indonesian presidency, there's a start of series of countries who are developing countries like Indonesia, then India, then Brazil. So, what is the significance of your country hosting the summit given this backdrop?
For sure, like you mentioned, until 2025 at the very least, G20 will be headed by developing and emerging economies. So for sure, the presidency of Indonesia is very important because we kind of make the effort of interest of emerging economies to be heard, to be listened in the G20 format. As well, this presidency is also important because the pandemic resulted in a very severe economic situation for everyone, and most of the worst victim maybe is the emerging economies as well as the less developed countries. So for sure, G20 is very important for Indonesia because Indonesia also experiencing turbulence in its economy while we are experiencing the pandemic. So G20, where we have these three priorities, is very apparent that the three priorities actually we have experience. We all have experience in during the pandemic, like health, for example. The health governance must be reinvigorate that so that we are more prepared with the future pandemic or future calamities. Second, on digital economy, it is very apparent that during the pandemic, we are survive. We have survived and we have thrived our economy because of digital economy. So we have to strengthen digital economy. And the third issue, more and more, it is important because food security, energy security, water security, with climate change in front of our eyes, becoming a very key element to progress and development for our community, for our society. Yes.
Ma'am, but how challenging will be your presidency? I'm asking this question because this year we saw the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has been devastating for that part of the world, but for the global south as well in terms of price rise. So the challenge in front of you in terms of bridging the divide between the West and Russia, how challenging it will be?
One of the principles that Indonesia's presidency has upheld throughout the year is that dialogue in whatever form is more important than no dialogue whatsoever. People coming into one room to discuss matters that are common concerns are more important than thinking about two or three parties' interests. So throughout the presidency, for Indonesia, bridging all interests is it's making everyone coming to same room to develop dialogue, to discuss and the common interest, not the issues that divide everyone, but the common interest, which is that is why we have these priorities that we keep putting forward for whatever reason the global dynamics is. So I think the challenge to bridge the tension, the differences, yes, it is very challenging. But at the same time, if we do not sit together in one same room, then the challenge or the problem or the matters will not go away, right? And pandemic also teach us that no one is securely safe from the pandemic. Everyone experienced the pandemic. Everyone cannot live by themselves. Everyone needs someone to support, to give them, the support to thrive the pandemic, to survive the pandemic. So I think bridging the challenge is not about making sure that everyone have one interest. No, at least we tried to come up with an avenue for everyone to sit together and to do the dialogue.
And everyone to sit together or be in the same room, but do you expect a family photo? Because this is something that hasn't been happening. Do you expect all the Western leaders and the Russian president to be together for the family pic?
Yeah, I think all are in the eyes of the beholder, yeah, because the photo ops is not actually substantive in nature. That is my personal opinion, because family photo is only family photo ops opportunity. It doesn't show anything. It's only more than 20 people coming together in one stage and then take pictures. It doesn't show anything. But the reasoning of them coming to Bali and sit together, that's more substantial for us rather than family photo. It's not important for the family photo to happen or not happening. The most important thing is that G20 becoming the avenue for everyone to just state their views, state their opinions on what to do for the world, for the earth, for a better international community.
Mhm. And ma'am, President Putin has confirmed that he'll be coming to Bali, and also President Zelensky both have confirmed. Have they confirmed?
Well, the last information, I think you can also find it in, in the open media, that my president even did not say who and when are are they coming, but for sure we're trying our best. Even my president taking some calls from leaders, making sure, like before, in during the G7 meeting, he made efforts for everyone to understand Indonesia's position, and Indonesia to understand everyone's position on certain issues, so that the avenue of dialogue is still there. We have seen efforts by my minister, foreign affairs minister, also finance minister, to just go have a round meeting with everyone to make sure that G20 is not an avenue for some particular parties to only focus on 1, 2, 3 agenda only, but needs to talk about, because you may know that G20 is now the only prime economic framework for leaders to sit down and think about the future of the world, the future of the earth.
So, can we expect, or are you hopeful of a breakthrough in Bali in terms of the leaders coming together, having conversation, and perhaps meeting? Do you see a President Putin, President Zelensky meeting, or something like that?
So for the bilateral meetings, I believe this is what the information that I receive. Many bilaterals, even to my ambassadors, he received so many requests for bilaterals. He will try his best to say yes and accommodate all requests. Breakthrough, I think, Sidhant, even to sit down in same room and speaking, maybe not to each other, but speaking on behalf of G20 is a breakthrough during this global dynamics.
Ma'am, diverting a little bit to the Indian presidency of G20, we will be hosting the summit next. So, what do you see, or how do you see the Indian presidency of the grouping, and also be part of the troika as well?
I think the most interesting part for Indian presidency is that the troika is a historical troika, because for the first time in the history of G20, the troika would consist of 3 emerging economies, never before in G20. For us now, the troika, there's Italy, right? But for India, it is very historical. And in that regard, I've seen how internet go crazy with Minister Jai Shankar going around the world and explaining about India's policy. I think his way of leadership, for sure, will be a good way of India to lead the G20 into a better position in the future. Unfortunately, India hopes, Indonesia also hopes that the challenge that we experienced this year will be completed before India's presidency. But unfortunately none, because the problem of food security, energy security, water security is still there. So I just believe that with India leadership in technology, in digital, in health, you are among the best in your effort in making sure that emerging economies experience the same, how should I say, positive impact of the pandemic, of the food security, energy security, I believe India will thrive in champion this G20 presidency for the future.
Ma'am, my last question to you is why Bali for the summit? You could have chosen Jakarta as well, but Bali. I mean, any reason rational behind it?
Rationally, okay. During COVID, Bali for us is the worst victim of pandemic because it's more than 90% economy depends so much on tourism. We need to help our brothers and sisters in Bali to overcome this challenge, to rebuild themselves after COVID. That's the rational reason. Secondly, we believe that throughout the years, Indonesia hosted events at the level of summit before, including MC9, the WTO Ministerial Conference in 2013, APEC, whatever we have arranged and hosted, we always, thank God, to have positive outcome. So we believe Bali has this certain vibrant that everyone coming to the island feels comfortable, and at the end the meeting is successful and the outcome is also substantively achieved in a good way. So that is why Bali is the host of this G20 summit.
Well, ma'am, pleasure having you with us, and of course, you gave your insights, and of course, WION will also be going to Bali for the G20 summit, and of course, give ground reports of all the developments. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking to WION. So there you have it, the word from the Indonesian ambassador to India, and of course the key focus area for Indonesia when it comes to the BEGA summit, the G20 summit that will take place in Bali later this month. With video journalist Sidhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.